What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Goats of Growth. Please subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't already. And like always, the J. David Group, which is my company, is sponsoring this episode. We help recruit today's go-to-market teams that will lead the next generation of unicorns. Email me, Webb, at thejdavidgroup.com so you can learn more about how we can help. And don't forget, I'm working on a book called The Goats of Growth as well. The untold stories of the greatest revenue leaders of all time, due out by the end of 2023. So follow me on LinkedIn to learn more about that. Andre, I bet you didn't. Did you know that I changed the name, by the way, from Overquoted to the Goats of Growth?
I thought there was a slight change from what I saw before, and then I was like, oh, I thought it was called something different. And so, but I thought maybe just me tripping about it. But now I'm like, okay, so I was right. You did end up changing it. That's awesome, man.
Everybody that's listening, as you might know, I do pre-interviews with everybody. And so in between the pre-interview and this interview right here that you're hearing, I changed and rebranded the podcast, as you may have heard in the cold intro to this episode that's been running on previous episodes. So nevertheless, the voice that you just heard and the Andre that I just alluded to is Andre Riley. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at iHire, which is a platform that uses innovative technology to connect industry-focused and career-minded candidates with employers across 57 talent communities. Andre, welcome to the Goats of Growth.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and then have this conversation with you. Super excited.
Absolutely. So let's just start with what I just ended with, which is your role at iHire. Which for those of you who are listening, I just learned that Andre had just started with this company. So Andre, tell us why you decided to choose iHire and what does iHire do? What's the value proposition?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I'll start with the latter of it is like, who is iHire? You know, as you mentioned, iHire is a career-oriented technology platform that connects candidates, career-minded candidates with employers within industry-specific focused communities. They've built a really strong, innovative technology. They've been around for 20 plus years and really doing a great job serving a lot of your SMB and mid-market businesses across, like I said, 57 different industries, really allowing for employers to be able to post jobs and connect with candidates that are within those specific industry-focused communities. One of the reasons, thinking about change and as you look at your career and you think about the next opportunities, where you want to go next, some of the core things that really stood out with iHire was number one was the culture and the people there. Connecting with the CEO, built a lot of great rapport to him. Obviously, as a CRO, reporting directly to the CEO, ensuring that there's alignment between the two. You guys have the same vision, philosophy, and how you approach business and work is always super important. And so that was one key thing that really stood out is just the CEO himself, the way he's operated and ran the company, and just his vision and where he really sees the company going aligned with me. This is a unique opportunity that I've taken. Typically in my past, I've been working in the SaaS tech space pretty much my entire career. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of building 3 different startups. Obviously, iHire is not a startup. They've been around for 20 plus years. So this was a different approach, right? This is an opportunity to go into a business that's well established, has tremendous revenue growth over the years, and are really looking to be more strategic about their growth and really looking at ways that they can increase market demand and increase brand awareness amongst their competitors. So really a different approach in being a CRO and leading a company versus starting out in the early stages of building out sales, marketing, customer success, and everything there. So something that was really super exciting for me and kind of a different chapter and a different experience for me to have within my career. And so it's been great. I've been there just over a week now, but it's been an amazing thing so far. And so really excited to get in and start making some things happen.
You used a word that I like to talk a lot about as it pertains to leadership, which is vision. You said that you and the CEO hit it off and you have the same vision for the future, I presume. Tell me a little bit more about that. What vision did he have that you saw as something that you wanted to align yourself with?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the key things with the company is that it's a very strong product-led environment. They have a really strong engineering and product team, they've developed and built a lot of uniqueness within their platform and really created a lot of ways that they can really capture so much of the entire candidate to employer process and capturing all that there. So the innovation as far as the technology and the opportunities that they have within those technologies and different lists of products that they have, there's so much that they're barely tapping into when you think about the market and what's available out there. Really, when we think about the vision of the company where iHire is going, number one, it's not as brand recognized among some of its top competitors. So increasing that brand awareness is a strategic and just a huge opportunity out there available to us. And of course, as you start to build that more brand awareness, you can increase a lot more demand. And then most importantly, being more strategic about the way that they're selling and who they're selling to. There's a lot of opportunity out there for some more larger enterprise sales that they can really tap into. And so that's another way of looking at the different levers that we can pull to really grow the company and see where it's at.
So with that, because vision, now you're talking about strategy, right? So the vision is to increase brand awareness, right? The next thing down from that is strategy. And so I wonder, as you increase brand awareness, because, candidly, I've never heard of iHire, and I've been in this business for 16 years and I've used, your competitors and all that, right? And I will say, by the way, when you say 57 talent communities, to me, that resonates because I feel like when we as a company post a job, let's say on LinkedIn, and we're looking for a very narrow profile because our clients are really discerning, oftentimes what happens is that we get candidates that are applying that just unfortunately aren't relevant to what the client is looking for. And I feel like because it's such a big world out there, so many candidates, that's a downside, frankly, to posting, right? And I'm usually not a fan of it, frankly, for that reason. So the fact that it sounds to me like you've segmented it in a way that might make it easier for somebody like me to find and match with candidates sounds really appealing. So how do you tackle that challenge of increasing brand awareness? And obviously you just got there, but what thoughts do you have? What vision do you have for making that happen?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it starts with some of your core basic traditional areas of marketing, right? Just increasing organic footprint, content, distribution out there, partnerships, and different associations and affiliate partners that you can tie into in each of those communities. That's the core of where it starts at, right? And then most importantly, really becoming a strong thought leaders within those specific industry communities becomes another way to drive a lot of that brand awareness. One of the key things, as you mentioned too, is not a lot of people are familiar with iHire. But when you think about the market and what's out there, different than the typical LinkedIn where you have a lot more of your white collar type roles, positions, more higher level positions that people are looking for and applying for. Within our industry communities, we have things like iHire ophthalmology, iHire construction. So these are verticals that are tying directly into candidates that are within those industries. And a lot of times these are folks that aren't on LinkedIn and never even heard of it, don't use it in that way. So there's such a large market out there across multiple other industries that we're tapping into. And that market is still so huge in what we can really capture out there. And so it comes with being specific within those verticals in each of those industries. And like I said, thought leadership, content exposure out there. And then also, doing a lot more outbound outreach as well. That's another thing that's going to be a little bit different than what the traditional way, how they've operated from a sales standpoint. They have a strong inbound funnel, which is amazing, but also having more strategic focus on prospecting into more enterprise and logos that make sense for the business in some areas on how we're going to drive and grow that.
When I hear you say that, partnerships, affiliate partners, more just going up market, if you will, I hear an investment, I hear budget. How do you think about that? How does that work as the CRO in terms of getting budget for all these initiatives that you're working on?
Yeah, it's I'm starting right at the point. It's like perfect timing with the company because we're finalizing budget and everything for 2023. And really, that budget all starts with being aligned from an executive standpoint, understanding where we want to go into business, how we want to go get there, and what it's going to take to do that. And then do we have the resources available to go hit those targets, hit those goals we want to achieve? So getting that clear alignment, understanding where you're doing and where you're going, but making sure that executive leadership is all on the same page about what it's going to take to go get there, and what are the leading and lagging indicators that we're going to measure and look at throughout that period of time to know and measure the success of that and know when to pivot or when to make optimizations and changes there. So alignment with executive leadership is key. And then ensuring that you have the budget to be able to go accomplish and do these things. It does take an investment to do that. And so making sure you have that investment available to start going down those routes is going to be key as well. And looking at where we want to go revenue wise, where revenue's at today, and really looking at the profitability of the company and, how much do we want to stay profitable, or do we want to make those initial investments that are going to pay out down the line and you get that payback later on. And so having clear alignment with that is super important, and managing to that budget is super important as well.
Of everything that you want to do right now that's important to you, of course, to get to where you want to go, what's number one? What's the
Yeah, it's funny. As I'm assessing and meeting with teams and diving into data and analyzing things and looking at stuff, I'll probably say the one highest priority for me is just leveling up the sales organization, really coaching and developing a lot more on some of the key things that I like to have within my sales organization, and the processes and how we operate is going to be key. And so that's the highest priority. That's one of the number one things is like making sure that we level up the sales org and how they go about qualifying deals, what their sales process is, all the different KPIs and mechanisms that go into that entire sales journey and funnel, really getting down to the grassroots of that and building out processes and measurements around that, and making sure your sales managers and directors are aligned to those things as well, so that we're coaching, developing reps to those goals in those processes, and as well as we're measuring and holding accountability towards those goals and processes as well. So that's probably my number one priority right now, is just really getting in and starting to increase some of the performance of the sales team.
Well, that doesn't sound like it costs any money, which is a good thing. Your first number one doesn't sound like just a little bit of time and some elbow grease to start with that one, right?
Exactly, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
The CFO and other folks would be happy there. So as you walk me through the mechanics of that, right? When you talk about upskilling and looking at the sales org and the way the process is running now, and knowing what you've done in the past to achieve success, what do you do first? In other words, you mentioned that you have, how many managers are reporting to you? How many leaders are reporting into you right now?
Just on the sales side, I have 5 managers reporting to me. Actually, 6. I'm sorry, 6.
6. Okay. Do you sit with them first? Do you sit with the team, like the individual contributors, both? Like, how does that mechanically, what does it look like for you?
Yeah. So, as someone coming in to a team that's established and processes and things are established, number one thing you want to do is sit down with the leaders and assess and ask questions, right? And I've asked a million questions, going deep into things, and really just understanding how have they been operating, what's their mindset on how they operate and manage their team, what are their core KPIs that they look at to measure those things of that nature. But definitely diving in deep, meeting with each of those key leaders and understanding their processes and their mechanisms. And what you'll quickly find is that, are all the managers aligned, right? Or are you hearing different things from others that you're like, whoa, okay, 3 over here is saying this, 2 over here is saying something completely opposite that contradicts that. So, understanding that, then it's definitely going to layer deep in meeting with every single sales rep and meeting with them and uncovering from them. And so when you think about, quote unquote, those boots on the ground who are, right in the process and doing everything, understanding how are they doing it and what are they doing, and do they understand the processes and the mechanisms going to it, and uncovering some of their pain points and challenges they may have in their role. But it definitely requires interviewing and assessing every single person underneath that entire sales org. And that's a process that I've already started and continue going knee deep in as I'm starting to gather all my information. And then from there, it's, you assess what's going on. You then identify what are the top priorities that need to be addressed, what are the wins that are great, and what are the things that we need to improve on and work on. And that's a plan that I'll put together for my CEO here in the next couple of weeks. Is here's my assessment, here's what I see is happening, and then put together a plan of like, here's what we need to go do, and here's a process and what we're going to do to go do that, and what it's going to take to go do those things there. And and that's going to take time to start to implement, make those changes. Change management can sometimes be difficult with team members. But one of the great things about this organization is that everyone is eager to learn and eager to grow. And that's something that really stood out to me as I, reviewed this opportunity and everything there. Is making sure, hey, are they willing is everybody ready to change, right? Because they all know there's some areas to level up and some growth there. But the key things becomes, are they ready to make that change? And based on everyone I've spoken with so far and what I'm learning, it's exciting to hear that everyone is ready and eager to really grow and level up their skill set.
Is it safe to assume then that there was somebody in this seat recently, I presume? Is that right? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I understand that. So you have folks that are on the team who have obviously been led by somebody else recently. Some folks may be more loyal to the previous than others, and you have to sort of handle that. There's a nuance to it, I'm sure, that needs to be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that it seems to me like the bulk of the customers have been SMB. So strategic is going to be a new sales motion for the most part. Is that right? And
absolutely.
What is your point of view that you come with just as it pertains to sales process and what needs to be measured? Because obviously, as you're asking these questions, you're coming at it kind of like again, with the breadth of experience that you have, and trying to, I'm assuming, pattern match and say, okay, well, this sounds familiar, this doesn't sound familiar. If it doesn't sound familiar, let me know. You want to learn more about that and dig into it to see, what's there and what's not there. How do you then begin to start taking the sales organization up market and being more strategic for folks who hadn't been there before? What does that look like?
Yeah, when you think about the processes, the approach, and your sort of methodologies, how you approach sales and the process your team follows. Yes, I have prior experience. I've been doing sales my entire career. So you kind of have some historical knowledge in what you've done in other companies and other industries with different personas. But it's always super important that you approach each one a little bit different and be willing to see the lenses different, because every playbook doesn't always work in every single industry vertical or even product wise. So you got to kind of take the best of both worlds, figure out what's going to work within this kind of company in their process. And in particular, when it comes to the personas and who we're selling to, and in that type of experience as well. And so it really comes down to analyzing and determining, okay, how do we structure our calls, right? Just some of the core basics when you think about sales is like, do we have a discovery? Is that a separate meeting than a product demo and walkthrough? Some of our SMB are high transactional sales. These are deals that are closing within, less than 14 days. So it's a lot of quick, you're doing your discovery, you're doing your product walkthrough, and you're negotiating closing all on a single call, right? So that action and behavior, you think about up marketing, you go towards these bigger enterprise, it's a different approach, right? From how you prospect and how you get those meetings and qualify those meetings, and the questions that you ask and uncover throughout those conversations, and the stakeholders are involved in that is a lot different when you're dealing with bigger customers, larger organizations, and also contracts that are going to be bigger values, longer sales process, multiple stakeholders involved in that decision, that process there. So it's really teaching those methodologies that go into how SMB high transaction sales are versus these bigger deals that are going to be longer processes, and definitely a lot more business acumen you're going to need to carry to have those thorough conversations when you're speaking with VPs and C-level executives at larger organizations on that enterprise level.
Who helps you internally as it pertains to like territory planning, account planning, as you're starting to go up? Like, who do you lean on internally to help you with that? That's a lot to take on yourself, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously within the org, we have underneath me and reporting, we have a rev ops. So that's a key person. That's a major stakeholder in helping me operationalize that process, driving alignment across marketing, sales, customer success, all the way through. And then ensuring that the systems and the tech stack that we're using, making sure the processes and everything are defined within that tech stack, and that we are measuring and capturing the right data and KPIs that we want to measure. And then, of course, teaching and rolling that down to our sales managers, our individual reps, so they have clear insight and understanding what they're being measured on, what are the activities and motions that need to take place on a daily basis, weekly basis, in order to execute and hit your targets. So your rev ops, sales ops, however people have it, but definitely your operation side of it is a key player in helping you implement and roll out these visions and processes that you have and keep those into place. And then training everyone and teaching them these new ways of how they should approach and look at things.
What about pricing? How do you go about looking at pricing and understanding whether or not the pricing is fit for the market? You know what I mean? And because if you're going up market, of course, that's going to change a bit. So tell me a little bit about where you begin there.
Yeah, man. I think for the beauty side of it is working in a lot of building a couple tech startups. That pricing strategy, how we approach pricing is, man, I've done it so much because, in an early startup company, you don't know what should be the right price, right? You're kind of looking at competitors, you're looking at the market, you're kind of understand what the appetite is for the price point. Can you show enough value to justify your price point? And how do you determine and measure ROI, right? How does a customer measure that return on investment on whatever product that you're offering to ensure that it's worth that value and those things there? And so those are some core things you want to think about as far as just the framework and mindset of it. But then, of course, it's looking at the price point of your competitors and what is the price point that others are paying out there. And then what does your product offer and how do you justify your price point for where you're at? And it's going to take some testing, right? You're going to try different things, test out different price points, and you'll find that sweet spot and what actually works and what really drives that demand and drives more of it. And sometimes you can go in at a lower price point to capture as much demand, right? And maybe your margins aren't as great, but as you get better with that, you optimize things, you can then start to increase that price point later on as you start to capture more demand and you start to get great logos that others can see and validate that success. It allows you to kind of come in and ask for a little bit more throughout that, but also ensuring that you're adding value to that product that those customers are gaining from it to justify that cost.
And then what about the time that you give yourself to start making decisions and looking at the data and saying, okay, this is working, this isn't working? Like, how do you know how much time is enough time? Or is it a certain amount of data, for instance, certain amount of no's, a certain amount of yeses, a close rate is extremely high, which means that, maybe we can increase our price, or maybe it's really low. Like, how do you tell me about that?
Yeah. So for me, I would say it's not time, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And especially as you go up market, you go to the larger, you don't quite know what that sales cycle is going to be. So if you tell yourself, hey, we're going to do all this stuff and then we're going to look at the results after 30 days, you may not have enough data to even come up with a hypothesis or conclusion from that. So it really comes down to an amount of data that you've now collected. And now you can take a look at that and then really measure and see all those different things you need to know, all the different KPIs and different measurements that you want to look at. But it's an amount of collecting enough data around that versus a period of time. Now, of course, time is a relevant factor into a lot of those different KPIs as well. But ideally, you want to make sure you're connecting enough data and information to be able to come up with a strong hypothesis and conclusion about what is the price point, what is the sales cycle, how many touches does it take to get to a meeting, what does that pipeline velocity look like, all those aspects like that, so that you can start to then determine growth and you can plan accordingly to those measurements there.
Got it. And when it comes to the KPIs that you're looking for as it pertains to price, I just threw some stuff out there as suggestions. So what are you looking for in there, beyond?
So I think when it comes to price and trying to figure out we price right, or we charging too much, or we charging too little. Number one, you want to look at pipeline velocity, like how many deals, how many opportunities are being created based on this current price model. And then thinking about the different stages of those opportunities and where those deals are at, how long are they sitting in each stage, right? And then, do we see a high drop in close loss at this stage? Do we see deals get to contract and negotiation and then they fall off because a person ends up not moving because of price? In ensuring that you're capturing your close loss reasons is another super important thing, but as well as capturing your close won reason, right? I think that's something a lot of people sometimes, slip and forget on is that, yeah, we also want to know why a person didn't move forward, but then you also want to know why did they move forward, right? And you can look at those things to start to determine that and understand that, hey, here's why we can be priced at this level because we see that our pipeline, our output is at a high rate. Our win rates are strong and our sales cycle is strong when we're priced at this level. But hey, if we're priced at this level, we see a longer sales cycle, but maybe deal values are a lot better. Maybe you're getting more volume, bigger quantity. So it's a lot of those measurements, but I think it's a lot of looking at the pipeline and all the mechanics within that. And then of course too, like all your prospecting, right? What is it taking and all the different time that it takes for a candidate or rep to be able to get to that opportunity? What's those mechanisms to take to get there? Because, the higher up market you go, the more busier those folks are and the harder it is to get in front of them. So it's a different approach as well for that. And so looking at, your outbound sales motion and the activity that goes into that and, the amount of touches it takes to get to a meeting, what type of touches are they? What's the open rates on emails? All those aspects all play a part that goes into pricing.
I never knew the answer to this question, and I don't even think I've asked it, so I'll just ask you. Rep compensation, right, in that situation, does that go into CAC or it doesn't go into CAC?
Yes. Yeah. You want to, when you think about CAC, technically CAC, your customer acquisition costs for those that may not know, but you take into account marketing, sales costs, you take into account all of that up front, right? Because not just that sales acquisition costs, but what was the marketing cost to actually get that demand and get that all there. So you take into account the sales rep, their fully cost, the salary of them, the commission, fully weighted, right? Expenses, healthcare, tech stack, you take all that into account that goes into your total sales costs, total marketing costs, and then that becomes your CAC and how you can measure that. Because if you just only take the sales side of it, you're still missing a whole other side of the picture that all contributed and played a part into getting to that customer and getting to the opportunity there.
Yep, that makes sense. Tell me where marketing comes into place now, because you've come in, you've evaluated the team and understand strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, all of that stuff. And you're moving forward with your initiatives. You mentioned partnerships and affiliates and that type of thing. What do you need from marketing once you've figured out what the sales motion is, the playbook, all that stuff?
Yeah, one of the amazing things about this company is, I remember meeting with the CEO and I actually met with the VP of marketing as well when I was determining this opportunity. And one of the things that's always been spoken about amongst all the leadership and executive leadership, everyone said marketing is the strongest team we have. Like they're great. And looking at what they're doing an amazing job. It's actually pretty mind-blowing the amount of leads that they get per month, but they're averaging about 1,400 leads per month that are being passed off to the sales team, which is me from the startup world is like, whoa, what? It's like, oh man. But one of the great things about it that they have here and was really appealing to me is a PLG motion, right? Those are a lot of those kind of, what I call PQLs, those product qualified leads. But we have a lot of our employers who's our kind of revenue target that are signing up for the platform and can get in and get onboarded into the platform quickly. So you end up having these warm leads that you're able to kick off to your sales team to then upsell other products that they may not have purchased in there, or they may have signed up just browsing using a free version of the product, but now you have the opportunity to sell them and get them contracted amongst that. So really it's going to come down to ensuring keep that motion going with marketing, but also make sure the content, the messaging, and what we're doing aligns to some of how our sales process works. And then really just ensuring from a marketing team that marketing process and how does that handoff kick over to sales, and ensuring that sales, we're capturing the right insights and data that we can provide back to marketing to understand what's working, what's not working, what are the type of personas we should go after, what are verticals we should probably zero in on based on the success that we're seeing. It's that strong alignment and communication between marketing and sales is super key when you think of all that. And and for marketing, it's just going to become really thinking about the different industry focuses and building content and a lot of things around that in each of those areas. And doubling down on those things there is going to be key as we think about the growth and where the company's going to go.
And as it pertains to going up market and more strategic, larger enterprises, does PLG still work there? In other words, can they start there and then the sales assisted after that, and then there's the upsells and all that, or not? Or is it just
yeah, it does. I would definitely say I do believe enterprise, and I think different products and different industries, can be slightly different in that PLG motion on the enterprise side, but you typically will see some of that, not as heavily as you would some of your others. But I will say absolutely when it comes to enterprise, it's going to be a sales-led motion and sales assisted sale after that, right? Even if they come in that PLG motion and they sign up for the product, typically they're not going to purchase or buy anything until they actually get on the phone and have a deep conversation with someone, talk through the different mechanics of what they're looking for and like that. Because again, these are larger purchases. So they're going to be a little bit more apprehensive to have a conversation with someone before they go sign up for, a 6-figure contract and deal and everything like that. So absolutely, it's a layer towards definitely sales led motion post that PLG.
Got it. All right, that's good. Let's get into the people side of it really quickly. I know that you said one of the first things you do is meet with your team, get an understanding of capabilities and all that. How do you drive motivation? How do you lead people to perform at their optimal ability, I guess, at all times?
Yeah, I think it's always a tough thing when you kind of think about how do you drive motivation, because every person is motivated differently, right? Ideally and traditionally, you would believe that salespeople are motivated by money, right? There's some of the core reasons why people are in sales for certain reasons. But the comp plan and the compensation is a key factor to help drive and basically entice those folks to go and achieve those targets the way you want. But also as well, as I think about it, coming into a new organization, a company, and people now learning about me and like, who's this new guy coming in? And oh my gosh, I've been that sales rep where we get a new VP or a new person, and you're always worried like, are they going to come clean house and bring in their own people? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And so it's super important as a leader, you get in and you communicate with the team as quickly as possible to help them understand your approach and your philosophy to growing the business and in your role there. And it's becomes super important to build trust, right? And a lot of times when it comes to sales, building trust is by proving and showing them how to do it and showing them the way to do it, right? And it's like getting in, getting your hands dirty, and you actually closing deals and working deals. Now all of a sudden people are like, okay, whoa, maybe this person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? Now they're going to pay attention and listen and be willing to take that change that maybe they're apprehensive about. And then it becomes coaching and spending time with them and educating them and teaching them things and helping them see the vision of where they can go and the potential of what they can do. Those are things to me that helps keep them motivated. It's helping them understand that, hey, this is where we're at today, but let's talk about where do we want to go? Where do you want to be at, right? Where's your career plans? What's your career path? And it's my job and my leader's job to help ensure how do we get you there, right? And that first is going to start with you being successful in the role that you have today and just blowing it out the water. And I'm going to show you the path and I'm going to help you get there and show you how to go do that. And so keeping a fine tune with them and coaching them is always super important, and giving them the resource and material to actually be able to be successful in their role is super important as well.
When you alluded to rolling up your sleeves and helping with customers and deals and that type of stuff. When you're a CRO and you have 5 managers, 5 leaders that are reporting to you, is it similar where you're showing them, you're rolling up your sleeves and you're showing them how to coach their people? In other words, maybe sit in.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's always been important. It's to lead by example, right? Lead by example and show them the way of it. I think so many times we can always talk about what to do. We can tell people what to do, but the practicality of actually doing it and actually letting them kind of shadow you and watch as you do it becomes sometimes the key thing to unlock the aha moment for some folks, right? Everyone learns in different ways. And so you want to make sure that the things you're putting in place, you're kind of teaching in a way that is an appetite for every type of person. And so, yeah, that means sitting with your managers and coaching a rep and going through the process and showing them how they should do it. It's also the things that you're coaching them and the things that you're developing with them. Constantly telling them, hey, what I'm doing here, these are the same ways that you would be able to do this with your team, right? There are going to be certain nuances a little bit different that I'm asking you as a leader about that you wouldn't necessarily talk to your reps about or anything like that. But the mechanics and the framework is absolutely the same, right? And so you want to start that with them and really hold that to them and build that framework and make sure that you're following that example. And then they can basically replicate that and apply the mechanics of those same things for their use cases in their departments and teams.
How about when you're setting quotas? Again, going back to if you're moving up market to larger enterprises, maybe you have data on the SMB customers and what historically what reps quotas need to be for the company to do whatever the company needs to do. When you're going into a different market, where do you begin? And obviously you have experience from startups when there was no data to begin with. Like, so how do you how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, number one is based on the budget, right? From an executive standpoint, based on the budget and what we've all agreed to and where we want to go and where we want to be at and what is going to take to get there. That's number one, right? And then your quota kind of rolls down from that standpoint to your sales directors, your managers, all the way down to the reps themselves. And so, the quotas is pretty straightforward, especially if you have historical data, things like that. Looking at how many reps are hitting quota attainment. Last year, did we miss the mark and we had too high quotas? Did we go too low? So you can look at that historical data and measure that. When you start to go up market and you think about the enterprise level, you quite don't know, right? It's like back to startup. You don't know what the quotas are. So you have to be able to be nimble and flexible with the team to ensure that they're producing productive in that way. And so a lot of times when you're brand new to something and you're launching a new vertical, new market side of things, you probably don't really put a quota set in stone right there, right? There may be other goals that you're trying to get them to capture. Maybe just like logo attainment, right? Hey, the goal is to sell 3 logos. I don't care how much those are, but we want to first see, can we actually acquire customers at this price point within this vertical on this enterprise side? Then you can start to determine what did it take to get to that. And then can an individual person have the capacity to be able to develop that continuously on a repeatable basis? That you kind of look at that and start to measure and build quotas upon that. And you may have to optimize and tweak it and things of that nature. But on the new side of it, you definitely have to experiment with it. And I think that you don't go into it putting a dollar amount on a rep for something that the company hasn't done, has never approached. So there's just a different way that you can measure their success, so to say.
Yep, that makes sense. What about the choice of, do you upskill your current reps to start serving those larger accounts? Do you plan to hire net new sales reps to go after those accounts? When I mean net new, like reps outside of the company to hire.
Yeah.
Tell me what your thought process is there.
Yeah, I don't have an answer on that yet. That's still TBD. But I would tell you that my approach and my philosophy is I love to grow within, right? I love to be able to promote people who's been there, who are vested, experienced in our product experience and our personas to a certain extent, but understand the company. And for those that maybe they do have a potential, maybe there's some growth and coaching and development needs to happen, with some of those folks. But the goal is to promote within and move within, right? But at the same time, if those candidates aren't there and the right talent's not there for what we need to do, then absolutely we're gonna have to go outside and hire people who are experienced in doing this. And sometimes that can actually help. And typically what I've done is if I'm hiring 2 people, or depending on the headcount you're putting over there, then it would be awesome to say, all right, let's take somebody internal and then let's go bring somebody external, right? Because now all of a sudden these 2 people can actually help each other in different ways. The candidate, the current employee who's being promoted and moved over, can help this person get onboarded into the company, the product, and all the processes in motion, where the outside candidate can bring that experience and knowledge on just what it takes to sell to enterprise and what that overall framework and philosophy is. So ideally, that would be best case scenario, is to have a mix of both. And then that helps you identify the type of profile that you need for this position to be successful. So as it grows and as you continue to grow it, you now know what type of candidates to look for, and you know what are the attributes and skill sets that a person needs to have, whether internal or external, to meet the needs of what this role is.
That makes sense. Generally speaking of attributes, what are the attributes that you value most in candidates, whether, frankly, attributes of people on your team that are internal, but people that you're evaluating as you're deciding whether or not they should join your company?
Yeah. So for me, it starts, no matter what, I don't care who they are, what position they're in. To me and my team, core attributes that I look for in people are strong communicators, right? That's super important to me. People that are passionate, right? Passionate about whether it's, we're in the HR tech space, or whether they're passionate about HR tech, they're passionate about sales. Some level of passion about the job and role is something I look for. People that are risk takers, right? I want those individuals that, are willing to take a risk and try new things in different ways. And then as well, people that have grit. Grit is super important to me, especially in a sales role. You got to be able to deal with all the challenges and hurdles that come along with it. And then that kind of ties into a little bit of resilience, right? People that are resilient is another key attribute. And then as well as being a team player, right? Someone who's willing to help their team, someone who understands the role they play and how it impacts a team, and someone who can work well with others, cross-functional departments and things of that nature. And then last but not least is, I'll probably say, a growth mindset. People that have that growth mindset and want to get better and are avid learners and want to grow. You have all those attributes. That's key for me, and I can work with that, right? Because those core things are there on the way, and the philosophy I have in building and leading teams. Those are the core attributes I look for across every position out there, with slight deviations based on success or marketing roles and things like that. But generally speaking, those are some of the key things that I look for.
Fantastic. Let me just skip back really quickly. Something I wanted to ask you before, which is, as you grow sales year over year, how much of what you're expecting is coming from net new, and then how much of it is coming from existing, right? Growing of existing accounts. And do you have a point of view, I guess, as far as like how much you expect to have of your sales, of your new sales, to be existing versus net new?
Yeah. So, I mean, every company is always different based on a lot of variances that go into that. Here at iHire, a big portion of our revenue goal next year is on net new. So that's new logo acquisition, new customers. I'll probably say about 80% of that goal is on net new revenue, and 20% of that goal next year is based on expansion. Now, there can be a whole lot more in expansion based on some new product rollouts that we're doing, some new features that we're rolling out that we can actually monetize and charge for. So, as long as you're constantly continuously developing new products and giving your teams more stuff and more things to be able to upsell and things like that, that really opens the ball open for your CS team to really have that expansion opportunity. And then really looking at our sales selling everything all up front. So not too people are coming in because our sales is basically packaging everything up and selling everything all in there. So you got to start to look at some of those aspects like that to determine what your expansion opportunity is within your customer base.
And is it safe to say you have a account management or renewal team that's responsible for that growth, or is it, yeah?
Yeah, so for us, our sales org is all responsible for net new, right? So they're all net new. And then, of course, they're broken up into teams on SMB, mid-market. And of course, we'll be developing kind of enterprise. And then we have kind of another side of it that's like our partnerships, different people we're partnered with, and sales and opportunities we get through that. That's a different team. And then when you think about some of the other aspects of the CS, all of our CS is responsible for renewals and expansion. And so once that net new sale is sold, passes on to customer success, they're now the point of contact, manage that entire relationship from that point forward. And they're also uncovering opportunities for expansion, and they're also responsible for retention on those logos as well.
Got it. One other question, then we'll get into the rapid fire 5. But when you are looking at 2023 and you're looking for the growth, you just got there obviously a week ago. How much input, I guess, do you have at this point to make sure that you're, I guess, managing the expectations for what is possible in 2023? Do you know what I'm trying to get at? Like, in other words, how much are you able to have say so that you're not over your head, or where they're putting a number in front of you that is just really not obtainable, and then you have to go expect this from your team? Like, I don't know if there's an artful way of asking.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. For me, and obviously the scenario for me and starting new with iHire and everything there, and I'll encourage this to anyone, VP of sales, CROs, even your, CMOs and VP of marketing. You're going into an org and you have the opportunity to assess that information during your interview process. Highly encourage you ask all those questions and really dive deep and uncovering what is a quota, what do you guys expect to be able to happen, and ensuring that, can you achieve this? Is this realistic? And then do you have the resources, budget, headcount, things of that nature to actually go and do that? So for me, I was fortunate to where these are discussions that were had before I ever took the opportunity. It's understanding what lever, what do I have available? Can this be done? Is it realistic? Or are you guys thinking that you're going to hire a CEO and they're going to be the saving grace to just change our things without having all those resources? I've been in situations like that where you get in and it's like the expectation, what you want to do is like, well, hold on. Like, we can't do that. We don't even have this, but it's like, just go make it happen. Go figure it out. Right. It's like sometimes in the early stage companies, like, you got to make it happen, figure it out and crack that code. But definitely having those conversations, align those things up front on those expectations and what the things are to get to there is definitely key in ensuring that. And what's also important for me and what's been great about the culture and the people here, and especially from the board and the executive team, is that they've given me the reins and the freedom that goes, look, this is yours. We trust you. We want you to run it. However you want to change it, whatever you want to do. Yeah, there's certain things that we probably got to run by the executive team on certain aspects, but at the end of the day, they're completely open to whatever's necessary to go make that happen. And so that's super important for anybody in any role. Make sure you have leaders that you can have that buy-in from them and have the flexibility and the autonomy to go do what you want, especially if they are going to set a goal for you, an expectation. Then you got to have the ability to go make it happen in the way that you believe, in the way that you want to go make that happen, and for them to trust that you can go do that.
Yep, absolutely. Makes sense. You ready to get into the rapid fire 5?
Let's do it, my man. Let's do it.
Here we go. Number 1, what motivates you?
I would probably say 2 key factors for me is my family. That's my number 1 motivator that drives me is my family, and being able to provide and be able to set an example for my 2 boys and really help change my family tree. That's super important for me. And then number 2 is, my constant quest to be the best version of myself. That's another motivator for me is like, I want to be the best and I want to continuously achieve more and set new bars higher and things of that nature. So those are probably the two key factors that keep me motivated on a regular basis.
How old are your boys?
My boys are I have a 3-year-old, he'll be 4 next week, and then I have a 6-year-old. So 4 and 6.
Very fun. Very fun.
And they keep me busy, man.
I'm sure. I'm sure this time of year, I'm sure, no doubt. Name a big goal you have right now and when you would like to accomplish it.
A big goal of mine. This is definitely completely different than my job, my 9 to 5. Side hustle wise, I love real estate. It's a passion of mine. And so a big goal of mine is continuously build out a real estate portfolio over the next 10 years. That's a big market I want to have. And that's kind of my side hustle. Other things outside of my everyday job as a CRO and working in the tech space, real estate and investing in real estate is another big passion of mine.
What's your preferred way to learn new information to stay sharp?
Oh man, podcasts like these, webinars, blogs, subscribing to different blogs. Those are all things, and of course, reading, right? Those are all things I continuously do to stay top of mind, stay sharp. And then building a community and having like-minded leaders that you can connect with and network with and bounce ideas off with. That's another huge point in keeping me sharp is surrounding yourself around very smart and successful people that you can learn and grow from as well.
How many hours of sleep do you average per night?
I'd probably say about 6 to 7. I'm early. I get up about 5:30 every morning. And then sometimes I'm going to bed at 11, but I'm trying to get in at about 10:30, something like that, 10 o'clock. But I would probably say anywhere between 5 to 7 hours is probably somewhere for me.
Sounds like we're on the same.
Definitely probably should be more.
Sounds like we're on the same schedule. What's your favorite thing to do when you aren't working?
When I'm not working, honestly, it's probably spending time with my 2 boys. They're involved in a lot of sports and extracurricular. I love coaching their teams and, running around with them outside, things of that nature. That's fun. And then I would also say, I'm a big car enthusiast. So I love modifying cars. I'm not a mechanic, get to work on it, but I'm constantly in that world of the car world and, sports cars, high performance cars and modifying and things like that. So that's another big enjoyment for mine is being in the car clubs and that kind of world over there as well. So I spend time doing that and then definitely enjoy that outside of all the work stuff.
That sounds fun. I got to talk to you more about that. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, actually, let me just as another bonus question, I guess. Tell me about the most recent modification that you made and to what car?
So I just got a Corvette C8, the new Corvette.
Yep.
So I just got that probably about 3-4 months ago. It's a 2023, got it ordered, got that car. I've always been a huge Corvette fan. That's been my dream car. So I was able to get that. And man, I think I bought it and within 30 days, I put new rims on it. I put a new exhaust on it. I did some body modifications to it. And then now I'll probably be looking to do a cold air intake here pretty soon. But those are kind of the main things I've done. So that car, I've done a whole bunch of stuff to it, and I've only had a couple of months. But there'll probably be some more things I'll do down the line. But for now, I'm like, all right, it's where it's at, where I want to be.
What color?
It's white, so white with black accents, black spoiler, black kind of front and side rockers, and it's white, and then black wheels.
Whew, sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beauty, man. It's a beauty.
Oh my gosh. So the last question, which is the actual bonus question, the question that comes from the previous guest. So each guest gets to ask the next guest a question. And this question is for you, which is, what piece of technology in your sales stack has made the biggest difference in accomplishing your goals?
Ooh. Um, I would probably say, honestly, I'd probably say one would be probably Gong. Gong has been very, very powerful in a way to really dive into a lot around all your sales mechanics and sales motion. And just the ability to coach and, score calls, but then also see all the insights and data and correlate all that together. That's been huge. And then I would also say there's tools out there from like, what is it? Oh my gosh. But also looking at just the overall insights across the entire spectrum as a whole. So whether you use like Tableau, Power BI, any of those tools where you can pull data from multiple different sources and kind of line all of them together, that becomes very, very powerful. And, we have a technology here in this company. At my prior company, we use Salesforce Tableau that gave us the ability to really get some deeper insights and also kind of tie in some machine learning and predictive scoring and predictive analysis that can kind of give you some baseline measurements that you can kind of guess on, and then you can kind of do your due diligence and measure against that as well. Obviously, being a CRO, data and insights is something I constantly spend time in. So anything I have to kind of give me that full picture instead of going to one tool, this tool, and then trying to tie it all together, any tool that can tie all that together in real time and be able to segment and filter by different variations, very, very powerful to give you a good view and insight to diagnose.
Absolutely. What question do you have for my next guest, who will also be a go-to market leader of some sort?
I say completely random to some of your other questions. I always love asking people what's kind of your at-bat song or what's like your motivating song. I'm always curious. I love music. So I'm always curious about people, what type of music they listen to and what songs actually motivate or get them in that right mood, right? And like, what's their at-bat song? Like, what are they going to walk out to, right? Like, what's that song that kind of almost in a sense defines them in a sense, but it's like, I come out to this, I'm ready to go. Like, let's get in the ring, let's walk up and knock a home run out. But yeah, what's your at-bat song? I think would be a great question to ask folks.
I love that. What's your at-bat song? So I forgot to ask you, what is your at-bat song?
So I'm a huge rap fan. So my at-bat song is Nipsey Hussle, Grinding All My Life. That's my song, man. I'm a huge Nipsey Hussle fan. And so that song right there gets me pumped up and gets me in the mood every single time. Definitely so. If you haven't heard it, man, go check it out. Check out that whole album.
Yes, that's a good one. I listened to God Did recently. That's been that's the song, and actually my producer Charan, who shout out to Charan, saying helps me put all this together. And so before the guest comes on, I'm sitting there vibing to myself, and I had God Did on the on my iPhone, and so he will have heard that. But yeah, that's the one that that's my at bat. That's been at my at bat for the last couple months. So
that's I would say that's definitely another one right there. I have to say, man, Jay-Z, man, he killed it. He dropped some bars on that one. That was and if you haven't looked at it, go look at it. You can probably find it on YouTube and like that. But the guy who did the hook, that sung that. Yeah. So if you actually go look him up, that's actually his first big, he blew up because of that. He sung that hook. Wow. But what's actually funny is he'll tell the story about how he didn't know who all was on the track, and he actually didn't get to hear the final song until it came out. And he was other people started telling him Jay-Z's on here and things on there. And he's like, what? He didn't know all these other folks got put onto that. And the first time he heard it, I think DJ Khaled didn't send it to him till the day it came out or the night before. And when he heard it, he was just blown away, hearing himself and how DJ Khaled produced it and mix it. And then everyone on the track, he was just holy crap, it's amazing. And it shows you how he's making it and how he kind of came up with that hook and how he made it. It's awesome, man. Check being that that's your song, go look up the YouTube videos and you'll find it, man. And it's just cool to see how the song came together and how all that blended well with it. So
Oh yes, I'm gonna go geek out over that. Funny, my son, who he's 7 and he goes around reciting all parts of that song because I play it all the time. I really do. And
yeah.
the clean version for him. And he just asked me the other day. He goes, "Who's this? Like, who's the guy singing this hook?" And I said, "You know what? I'm like, I don't know." But I go, "The next guy is John Legend." I'm like, John Legend actually finishes it, but I don't know who the other guy is who's singing the hook. So it's funny you bring that up because now I'm gonna have to go investigate and look at that.
Yeah. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah, we just Google it. I'm sure
Yeah.
YouTube it, it'll pop up right there. But yeah, I think that's kind of put him on the map now, and I'm sure he'll get a whole bunch of other things, the opportunity to come to him from there.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. Andre Riley, thank you for doing. Oh, sorry. Before I even dismiss you, sorry. How can folks follow up with you to reach out to say thank you? Perhaps maybe apply to iHire. What's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for an opportunity, obviously we're going to be growing sales, marketing, customer success, and any other roles, product, anything like that as well. But go check out ihire.com. You can apply, see all the open opportunities there. As well as you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Andre Riley at LinkedIn. Definitely connect with me. Always more than happy to help folks out. Questions you have, insights you want to know, things like that. Always more than willing to happy to help out there. But feel free, you can find me on LinkedIn. And if it's an opportunity in sales or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn as well.
And like I always tell everybody who wants to reach out to my guests, make sure that you use the Goats of Growth podcast in your subject line to help you stick out from all the other people that are inboxing him or whatever. So
it'll make a difference. It'll prioritize the response.
That's right. There you go. There you go. And that's what we want. That's what we want. Now I'll say it. Andre Riley, thank you for participating in the Goats of Growth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jay. Really appreciate our opportunity, man. Really enjoyed this conversation.
I'm cueing the music, everybody. Goodbye.